Hi, welcome to Tuts Plus. My name is Bob Flisser, and I want to show you how you can control animation in PowerPoint using the Animation Pane and Timeline. The Animation Pane is a list of all the objects on a slide that have animation applied to them. And you can use this list to control the order, change the sequence of the animations of the objects, when they're coming in, when they're leaving, what they're doing while they're on the slide. In the Windows version, each object in the Animation Pane occupies a bar in the timeline. It's a little different on the Macintosh, you'll see that also. And if you're familiar with using timelines in maybe animation programs like Adobe Flash or any kind of video editing, you'll be familiar with the concept of how a timeline works. If you're watching this tutorial on the Tuts Plus website, you can download a zip file that contains the file that I have open, and you can see up here it's called Timeline. If you prefer to use this tutorial with your own PowerPoint file, that's quite all right. To start with, this timeline file has 4 slides and doesn't have any animations applied to it. So let's just preview it and see what we've got. So down here on the bottom, on the right side over here, I can click the slideshow button. If you're on the Mac, the slideshow button is on the lower left corner. And also the keyboard shortcut in Windows is F5. It's F5 on the Mac. You might need to press Function F5. But let's just do that. And I can simply hit the Enter key or roll the mouse and go from one slide to the next. Now, in the second slide, you see we have bullets. We have first level bullets and second level bullets. On the third slide, we have a 3D column chart. And then on the fourth slide, we have this schedule with all kinds of graphic pieces, and we're going to animate this also. So we have 3 objects on the slide. We have the company name, we have the services in the yellow box text, and we have this down here as the subtitle. We'll animate all of them. So let's start by clicking in the company name, and we'll go up here on the ribbon bar to the Animations tab. Animations in PowerPoint are in 3 stages. There's the entrance, there's what's called emphasis, meaning what happens to the object when it's on the slide, and there's also an exit. And you could animate 1 or 2 or 3 of these stages, and they could be mutually exclusive if you like. So, for example, you can have an object with an animated exit, even if it does not have an animated entrance. So you can see up here we have a short list of animations, and you could also click this little down arrow here. And if you're new to this, don't get confused. You have this little grayed out up arrow, this little down arrow, but this little down arrow with the hat on it is what you want to click. That will bring down this menu here, and you can see here's a whole bunch of entrance effects, a whole bunch of emphasis effects, a whole bunch of exit effects, and there's actually a little bit more to this, because you see over here you have more entrance, emphasis, and exit, and if you click one of these, you'll get a dialog box that has yet even more. This is a little bit beyond the scope of this lesson, so I'm just going to cancel out, and I'm just going to use what's up here. And it's a little different on the Mac. On the Mac, you don't have that drop-down. You do have entrance, emphasis, and exit all kind of lined up on this bar over here. Works the same way. And just to keep things simple, I'm going to apply a basic fade. So that's going to fade in. I know it's a fade in, not a fade out, because it's an entrance effect. And you see we have that number 1. That means that is the first object that's being animated. Okay, so where is this Animation Pane and Timeline already? Well, as long as we're on the Animations tab, over here, let's click Animation Pane, and that brings it out. And by the way, you can change how wide or narrow it is, whatever's comfortable for you. And let's apply animation to the yellow box text. I'll do the same fade in, and I'll go down here on the subtitle and also have that fade in. And now as I do that, you see we have this 1, 2, and 3 listed, the order, and also here in the Animation Pane, they're listed in order. And you see we have this little mouse icon. That means that the object will be animated only when you click the mouse. Well, clicking the mouse or pressing the Enter or Return key or the down arrow or right arrow key or even the spacebar, just about anything. But meaning that it happens when you actually interact with it. It's not on an automatic timer. What I'd like to do is this yellow box text, I want that to be the first thing that gets animated in. So what I can do is I'll select this number 2, and that's this number 2 yellow box text, and then I'll click the up arrow, and that brings it up here to number 1. That's up there, number 1. I'm just going to click this down arrow to bring it down. To show you another way I could do it is I can simply drag it. I can also drag up to the top. And also this up and down button are duplicated up here on the ribbon. So there's 3 ways that you can do it. On the Mac, it's kind of similar. You can also take the items and drag them up or down. You also have an up and down reorder button there. You can also click over here to reorder. And also, as I was saying before, here you have separate sections here for entrance, emphasis, and exit effects. What I want to do now is give this yellow box text an emphasis and an exit effect. So let's click in here again. Now, what you do not want to do in the Windows version is go back up here and apply something, because if you choose something from here, what PowerPoint will do is it will remove the entrance effect and it will replace it with the emphasis effect. Now, that's not true in the Mac version. In the Mac version, you do use this little bar up there and it will add the effects. In Windows, what you want to do is over here, you see where it says Add Animation. You want to click that. And you see it's the same list that we saw before, so you're not really losing anything. I'm going to give it a pulse effect, and you can see what it does. It pulses a little bit. And now I want to give it an exit, so I'll make sure again that I'm selected in there. And from Add Animation, I'll scroll down. And from Exit, I'll also let it fade out. Let's go and preview it. I'll click the slideshow button here. And that comes in first, second, third. Now it pulses. Now it fades out. And now we're left with the other stuff that goes away. So that's not exactly what we want. We want all 3 of these objects to fade out simultaneously. So let's go back and click in the company name here, and we'll add animation. And also let's scroll down and make that fade out. Click on the subtitle here and add animation. I'll have that fade out as well. And now it's a bit of a mess. What I really want, because I say it's a mess because everything has to happen on mouse click or press enter, what we want is to sequence these so that they all fade out at the same time. And you see here these red stars. That red star means exit animation. So the first one here is that yellow box text. What I'm going to do is I want to take this here, this number 6, and make that fade out concurrently with the number 5, with the services. And there's a few ways to do it. Number 1, up here, and you see I have this selected. It says on click, I can choose with previous. Another way is I can click this drop-down list here, or I can right-click and choose Start with Previous. And also notice that the delay is 0. And as soon as I do that, you see that little mouse icon goes away. And I'll do the same thing here for this number 6, and I will start with Previous. So those all happen at the same time when I click for the services to go out. Also on the timeline now you see we have these little bars there. Now let's take a look at this on the Mac. And you see on the Mac, instead of an actual timeline, they have a custom animation box. And there is no actual timeline. That is, you don't see sequence bars, but you do have the list here. And for these to start with previous, you do it over here on the right side of the ribbon. There is no right click on there. So now let's go preview it. Again, I'll click on the slideshow button. And that comes in first. And then the yellow thing pulses, and then they all fade out at the same time. Okay, let's take a look at how to animate bulleted text. So I'll just go over here to slide number 2, and here we have also headline, first level bullets, second level bullets. Let's animate in the header here, so I'll click that, and I'll make that fade in. And I'll click anywhere here in this bullet text area, and also I'll give that a fade in. You could choose a different entrance animation if you like. And you may have noticed what's happening is that the second level bullets come in with the bullet above them. And you can even see here, this here is number 4, and all the bullets under it is number 4, and this first level bullet is 5, and these sub bullets are 5. You could even hit the preview if you want, so you can see what's happening there. Now over here in the animation pane, you have, it shows you number 1, that's the header. Number 2, that's all of this stuff. And here is a little down arrow, and if you click that, you can also see that the first level bullet is number 4, contains all of the others because they're not individual mouse icons, and the same for number 5. What I want to do is for every single bullet to come in on its own, either automatic sequence or on click. So what we do is just put your mouse pointer over here, either right click or click the down arrow, either way. And you see we have a bunch of things here. Choose either effect options or timing, it doesn't matter. And that brings up this dialog box. Here's a kind of weird thing about PowerPoint, is effect options and timing are two tabs of this dialog box. There's a third tab here, text animation. That was not represented in that drop-down menu. But let's go over here and see where it says group text by first level paragraphs. That's what's causing it. Click it, and you could choose second or third, whatever level paragraphs, anything more than first is going to work. Click OK. And now you notice that each one is happening individually. And they're labeled here, 1 through whatever, so you can see that they're all happening individually. You could do this on the Mac also, slightly different dialog. Let me show you that. On the Mac, in the same custom animation box, when you have this selected, down on the bottom you see you have this text animation section. And we have these options. If you don't see the options, you can just click the little arrow there to twirl it down. And you see over here where it says animate text, or group text rather. And right now it's first level, and that's what's happening. And you could click that and choose second or third level. Animating a chart is pretty much the same thing. Let's go over here to slide 3, where we have our column chart. And let's click the slide title, and I'll give that an entrance effect. Click on the chart itself. Also, I'll give that an entrance effect. And you see it all comes in. And let's hit the slideshow button. And here's the slide title. And the whole thing comes in at once, so we want to fix that. So right now, you can see the slide title is animation number 1. The whole chart is number 2. That's over here in the animation pane. So right-click it or click the down arrow. And just like with the text bullets, either effect options or timing, because the thing that we want is just not on here. And then go over here to chart animation. And over here where it says group chart, you can choose by series. Series means, let's say, all of the green bars or all of the blue bars, those will come in together. By category, that means this section here will come in, and then that section will come in. Element in series, you could have this green one, this green one, this green one, this green one, and then blue, 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 etc. Element in category will simply make this, the first 3 come in on this, then the 3 come in on this, and so on. So let's choose that. Click OK. And we don't have to click, you can just see the preview. That's bringing everything in one at a time. And now they're all numbered here. And if you click this down arrow, you can see they're all numbered there. Let's take a look at this on the Mac. It works basically the same way. When you have the chart selected and you have it, whatever animation, whatever entrance animation you have this section down on bottom, chart animations. You might need to click the little arrow to twirl it open. And now you have the same choices here. So now let's go to the 4th slide. We have this diagram that's completely unstructured, and we can still animate this. Now let's take a look what's going on. We have this horizontal arrow, and this is one object. You can click that. And then all of these objects here are grouped. So for example, I have January, I have the up arrow, text, and this little thumbnail. These, I've already grouped these for you. And that's the same for all of the others, March, July, October. If you click, it's easiest if you click on the thumbnail, and you can see that all of that stuff is grouped. So let's start with the slide title, and I'll animate that in. And I want, after the title comes in, I want this arrow to animate in. So I'm going to click that. Now, instead of a fade, I want this to white because an arrow is going in a direction. So I want it to appear that the arrow is kind of arrowing in, flying in. So I'm going to choose wipe. But I don't want it wiping upwards. I want it wiping from left to right. So over here we have the effect options. You see the little arrow showing it's wiping up? I'm going to click that, and I'm going to choose from left, and you see it's coming in. Now over here on the timeline, this is showing me that it's coming in. Let's extend this a little bit. If you put your mouse pointer on the right edge of this green bar here, when you get that kind of little funky two-headed arrow, you can drag to the right, and this is even going to tell you how long that's going to take. If you don't like dragging that bar, you could go over here and choose duration. And it's the same thing on the Macintosh. So let's apply wipe animation to these others. So I'm going to go over here to January, and I'm going to have that also wipe, and that's wiping up. That's good. And let's go to July. Now, instead of selecting July and applying animation, I'm going to use the Animation Painter. So I'm going to click this over here. I'm going to double click the Animation Painter, and that way I can apply first to July and then to October. I'm done using the Animation Painter, so either I'll hit the Escape key on the keyboard or I'll click the Animation Painter to turn it off. Now let's do some wipe downs. I'll click this one here for March. I want that to wipe, but I want this to wipe downwards. And then I'll make sure it's still selected. Click the Animation Painter once. This is a single click, not a double click. And then when I apply it here to July, I don't have to turn it off because there's a difference between a single click and a double click. Now, this is fine, but the order isn't quite right. Let's go and preview it. We'll click over here on the slideshow button. So there's a title. The arrow, you see, that's a nice leisurely 2 seconds. January wipes up. So far, so good, but here's where things get a little haywire. I have July and then October, and then it kind of doubles back to March and the other July. So we have to fix that timing. So what I'm going to do is we see here, this is number 1. The arrow here is number 2. This here is number 3. That's good. We want this to be number 4. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to move this into the 4th position. Now this is the 5th position. That's good. I also want this to be 5 because I want the top of July and bottom of July to happen at the same time. So I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to move this below 5. These are both going to be 5 in a moment. And then this here is the last one, which is what we want. So when this top of July comes in, we want this to come in with it concurrently. So instead of on click, I'm going to have that go with previous. So you see that little mouse icon goes away. So let's play the whole thing. And by the way, you have this preview here at the beginning of the ribbon bar. You also have this, you can play from the first one or whichever one is selected. I'll hit this preview so we preview all of it. The arrow and then those two. That's terrific. So this is exactly the order we want. But let's say I'm doing this presentation to be self-running and not on mouse click, and I want everything to happen automatically, or at least when after the slide title comes in, maybe we'll make that manual, and everything after that will kind of domino in happening automatically. So this here, that's number 1. That's good. That's going to be on click. But now this one here, I want this to be after previous. So I'll start that after previous, but I want a little bit of a delay. I don't want it to happen immediately. So I'm just going to click in there and make that 1 second. And then the same with this, or I could right click and make this after previous and make that 1 second. And this, maybe I'll right click this time, doesn't matter. Delay of 1. This one here, a delay of 1. And now you see the timeline is extending. This one here, now this might be a little confusing because this one is the bottom of July. When we start this after previous, means after this group 5, not after that group 6. So we would still want to put this in as 1 second, and you see it moves over. I'm going to undo for a second. I'll just press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac just to show you that another way you could do this is that you can drag these items. So I'm going to take this here, and you see I have this 2-headed arrow here, and I can actually drag this on the timeline. Sometimes this little pop-up help isn't so helpful, it gets in the way, but that's just another way you can do it if you prefer. And then lastly, I want this one here to be after previous 1 second delay. And now you see the whole timeline is stretched out. And you see down over here where we have this little scale. So here's where it really is like a timeline like you might see in Flash or a video editor that you can scroll through and see where everything is happening. And when you see that there's a gap between one item and the next one here, that's how you know there's a delay, rather than them all kind of squished together. Okay, let's go and preview the slide. I'll hit the slideshow button. All I need is a single click, so resist the temptation to keep clicking through or hitting the Enter key. Just one click brings in the title and then everything else just kind of dominoes in automatically. And now you see July goes up and down at the same time. So that's a beautiful thing. Although just keep in mind that nice little timeline does not exist in the Mac. But in general, PowerPoint's Animation Pane and this timeline are really great features. You can see that they give you very detailed control over timing and sequencing and duration of all of your objects. And you could apply animation to just about anything, text, pictures, anything that's imported. So I hope you enjoyed this and you found it useful. Once again, my name is Bob Flisser for Tuts Plus, and thanks for watching.